hit record, so you can start if you'd like.
All right, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. We'll call the August 9th, 2022 Advisory Committee meeting to order. Welcome. We unfortunately do not have a quorum at this time, so we will not be voting on the approval of the minutes. We can, as a group, discuss. I just saw the screen changed, but we can discuss the items at hand and try to make some progress on the 5-year plan. So I guess we can bypass the minutes and move into the old business review of the draft of the 5-year solid waste plan.
You want me to take it from here, Karen?
Sure, yeah. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is this version, or a version, was sent out on Friday with the meeting invite. I have continued to work on it. The only changes that have been made are to add information from the planning and design in the siting, facility siting chapter. And then there was one thing, disposal chapter. Everything else, all the changes since the last time that you guys have seen this is in colored text, not necessarily highlighted, but colored text. So as you go through, if it's not in a different color, then we've looked at it before. So we've got the plan, most everything completed on it. We're a long way. So what I would like to do today is kind of start by hitting a couple of the chapters that, if we can kind of get those off of the table, I think then, we can kind of move to the other ones that might not go so easily. So Karen, if you could go down to the open, dump, and litter chapter. Pretty far down. Keep going. Keep going, keep going. Keep going. Oh yeah, keep on. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I think that for the most part, we went through all of the questions, the as is question 1, we went through. And if there's any questions on any of these as we quickly run through, let me know. So question 1, question 2, keep on going down. I don't think that there was any question. 3, no questions in there. 4, 5, 6. 6 is a long section. Keep on going. We still, that has been highlighted since the beginning. We're still trying to work with the state on nailing down what they're going to do along the interstates. They kind of control litter collection along those interstates. Going. Okay, so in this chapter, it breaks up litter. After it goes through a lot of questions, it breaks up litter in open dump sections. As I spoke at the last meeting, open dump typically means something that is larger, something that we would, I guess, get the state's help on cleaning up. For the most part, that we pretty much handle those on our own. We only do a few of them: Garland Avenue, Valley Sanitation, and potentially Robinson Wrecking would be major open dump grant type activities. But the open dump prevention strengths, we have a Metro's 311 system where citizens can report the issues. We can handle most of the issues without completing the grant request. Louisville's has a dedicated enforcement team that investigates illegal dumping, utilizes surveillance cameras. It can issue citations and impound vehicles, and has a dedicated code enforcement board to hear appeals cases. You'd be surprised how many counties do not have that in their system. Louisville Metro has a dedicated website for illegal dumping. If you guys haven't checked it out, please do. In there, they can get tips about prevention, view images of vehicles that we're searching for, as well as see ones that we've impounded. And they can also report witnessed illegal dumping anonymously if needed, and upload their images of people for investigation. Not very many people have this as well. Also, Louisville has a very good social media presence that announces when we've impounded somebody, but also when we're searching for them. This involves the public, who can send messages to the enforcement unit with information. One thing I would say is the enforcement team, and I know it's not necessarily related to the plan, but we've had our education and enforcement team has presented at 2 illegal dumping seminars. One was for the state of California, and most recently one was with the United States EPA as far as waterways. And we presented, EPA saw what we did in California, liked it quite well, and asked us to do it again for their audience. So we do have a very good enforcement and illegal open dump team and process here. Go ahead down to weaknesses. The collection and the solid waste management does not automatically include bulky waste items, or collection of bulky waste is conducted periodically. Those are some of the things that, even when we looked at other states, areas that don't have bulky waste collection included in their system, or it's conducted periodically, typically have higher incidents of illegal dumping. So that's really the only weakness that I put in here. Does anybody have any questions about any of the strengths and weaknesses? Okay, specific actions. Number 1, replace the announcement-based bulky waste collection system with an appointment-based system of 4 large items, too large to fit in 95-gallon carts per week, for services provided by the Department of Public Works and the Urban Services District. The goal of this program should be to allow citizens the option to dispose of items as they are generated, instead of needing to wait months for their next set out period. This one's already in the works. So this is one that we want to make sure that we follow through on. We feel like it's going to make a big difference. It did in our pilot programs. Consider amending Chapter 51, Louisville Metro Code of Ordinances, Chapter 51C3, to include a minimum of once per month collection of bulky waste items too large to fit in garbage containers into the basic service package that is required to be offered by waste collectors as a condition of their license. And number 3, create illegal dumping education and outreach messaging as part of the larger campaign focusing on putting waste in its place. Messaging will focus on ensuring residents and businesses understand the importance of solid waste management for their community, their responsibility to ensure waste is properly disposed of in a permitted disposal facility, and to publicize disposal options offered by Metro government and the private sector. Any questions, concerns on any of the specific actions?
May I just interrupt you for a moment, Pete? I see Greg Zarandex on the call now. Karen, do we have a quorum at this point in time?
Yes, that would make 8 if Greg got on.
Yes, I'm here.
And I apologize, Pete, and Karen, just hold the plan where it's at currently, but I would like to go back and try to get the meeting minutes approved. And then I have one question before you continue, Pete. So we initially tried, we asked about the minutes of the meetings. If everyone's had the opportunity to review, before losing any members, I want to see if we can get a vote, motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting. A motion,
Moved.
motion by Mr. Blue. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
I'm sorry, there was a second by who?
I seconded. This is Marie.
Thank you, Marie. All in favor, show of hands, please. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Bruce,
Thank you very much. Yes,
if I could, want to remind everyone about the new Open Meetings Act law that requires everybody to be visible when conducting business at all times. I know that we had gotten this in before the last meeting. We discussed it at the board. We do have a couple questions about it that I'm still working on as far as muting and stuff like that, but I'll get to that. But if everybody could remember to have your video on while the meeting is being conducted, please.
Tim or Marie, is it possible for you to vote by video?
Yeah, I didn't have mine set up, but I can rearrange in just a few seconds.
Does it not show my video?
Kim, you're not on screen either.
Okay.
And
I can
Adam,
see myself. So hold on here. Let me see what I'm doing.
Adam, is your video available?
see you,
Hello?
Kim.
You can see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
This is Adam.
Adam, can you turn your camera on, or is that possible?
Yes, 1 second. Okay.
There it is.
I believe now, even without Marie, we have a quorum with those visible on the screen.
Yes.
Can I now have another motion, or Bruce, can you start your motion again on the approval of
I make the motion, approve the motion.
And a second
I'll second.
by Greg. All in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3. Those opposed? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you. So we've met the requirements, I hope, of what we
Yes, sir.
need to do, Pete. My next question, and as soon as you started going through the plan, came to mind, Pete, we had a discussion about receiving an extension on submittal. Were you able to acquire that extension, or what's the status on that?
We've had a verbal commitment for a extension. Our planned meeting was couldn't take place last week due to a medical situation with a person from the state. We're hoping to get that done. We want to be able to have that meeting first to get us kind of a status from them to kind of see where we need to go. But we do have a verbal approval for an extension if we need it.
You know what the duration of that extension is?
I think we'll have a better idea after tomorrow, I hope.
All right, thank you. Now, if we may, we can continue on. Karen, thank you.
So this was, we're going over the open dump and litter section. I just went through the strengths and weaknesses of the illegal dump system and the specific actions. I think most people heard it. I'm not sure who did not, but any questions on any of those?
Yeah, I guess I got a question. Is it you're proposing for the whole urban service district to eliminate the bulky pickup times, whether it's 3 times a year now, and just go to appointments? Is that,
That is correct. That's actually been approved by Metro Council.
yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, I've talked to a couple people, but it seems like nobody's that much, I worry about education. In other words, we all think we listen to everything and get online and have apps and do all stuff, but there's a huge portion that don't. So a lot of people,
Educated yet.
pardon?
We haven't announced it yet.
I know, but I'm saying even when it gets announced, we always just assume it's going to be generally well known. I just worry that a lot of people like the system the way it is are going to continue to do it, and I'm not sure, how we're going to deal with it as time goes out. So that's my thought.
Okay, but this doesn't apply to any place else, just the urban services district. Is that
Well, but-
correct?
Well, that's number one, I think, but then number two says they're going to require the haulers to do something different also, I think.
Okay, but we're not going to give up ours anytime we want it once a week. And I think this needs to be written in such a way that people like us who are contracting do not have to give up any services.
I think number one is very specific in when it says that it's for services provided by the Department of Public Works in the Urban Services District. It's very specific.
That's why-
as to who it's.
That's why I didn't understand the question. I thought that was very clear too.
Well, I'm not saying it's not clear. What I'm saying is when it gets rolled out, and people in the urban service district is what I was talking about, are used to having it one way. A lot of people don't follow all the educational stuff that we do. And I think you're still going to have people doing that, and then people that are going to be missing it, and they're going to be right on next door, how they don't get anything for their money and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just saying it's not
Yeah,
going to be easy.
It's not easy, but it is a big part of our what we're going to do has to do with the communication plan, and we understand people don't they resist change a lot, but this system is actually going to be providing even more service than they had before. So and if they're looking for their date to set out because they're used to that, then that's when they're going to find out. If they haven't heard anything else, then that's when they'll find out that the system has changed.
Okay.
Aaron, can you make note of that when we're dealing with that, the consultant that we're considering, as well as, pushing out our campaign online, and that we address Craig's concern and just make it an action item, please. Any other input from committee members? Hearing none, we can move on, Pete.
Okay, Karen, continue on down into the litter section. I think we've looked at the litter strengths and weaknesses already. And here are specific actions, create an anti-litter education and outreach messaging as part of a larger campaign. And you're going to see those words a lot as far as putting a focus on putting waste in its place. The campaign will focus on a behavior change and will not only work to reduce litter, but would both measure and improve public perception about the cleanliness of the community. Number two was conduct community-wide litter basket inventory. to include identifying the GPS location, the type, the condition of existing litter baskets, to perform an analysis to determine the effectiveness of the existing placement and where additional litter baskets could be deployed. After that, it would be a deploy and reposition as needed. And through a partnership with Louisville Metro Department of Public Works, TARC, the Waste Management District, we would create an organized collection system using Metro crews. A lot of this is already in process. The assessment is taking place now. We did something similar to this in District 8, I believe, where we looked at the placement of litter baskets to make sure that they were good. But this is going to be something that's going to extend throughout the entire county. We have a really big issue with litter baskets in the suburban area that were placed by, we don't know. It's, when they place them, they're either supposed to have a contract with a private collector to pick them up, or an agreement with a business. And lots of times a Metro Council person changes, or a community group changes that was paying for it, or that business changes hands. And then we have a litter basket that's out in the community that's just collecting a bunch of litter and overflowing and causing problems. So that's one of the biggest reasons that we have this. Here's another one that is a little bit different and probably will require a little bit of understanding as far as trying to get this off of the ground. Explore a subscription to a website called Literati as part of the education and outreach plan. The site uses the power of crowdsourced data to inspire citizens, businesses, nonprofits to take a collective action. The data will help government agencies in the community to diagnose the state of litter in the community and to take tangible actions to prevent it from happening in the first place. Literati is pretty cool. It's a worldwide movement, and you can actually, with educational facilities, they take a GPS picture of the piece of litter, take any identifying information off of it, and it populates on a map. And it's a little complicated to explain here, but it certainly has kind of taken off in a lot of the world. You can look at pieces of litter for wherever. It's pretty much out there. So if you get a minute to look up Literati, do so. But that would be one I think that we would want to work with our marketing firm to kind of promote that, especially to some of the educational facilities around town that can use that as some lessons. Then replace the announcement-based bulky waste collection system, which we've already discussed. The reason that it's also in the litter section is because the way the existing system is and has worked, there is a lot of scavenging of material, which creates a massive amount of litter that's very difficult to clean all that up. So we feel like that replacing that system will be a much cleaner system overall. Any questions on the litter actions?
Karen or Pete, do you know, I went on the Literati site and watched the founder's got a real nice presentation on there if anybody wants to go click on it. It's about 10 minutes long. My question is, I couldn't see that there was a fee for that. Is there a fee for that?
I think that that's something that we'll probably need to look into a little bit more. It did not used to, Brian, but the last time that I looked at it, there was, you have to get more information. So if there is a fee, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it had like an application in there and I didn't go in to fill it out.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very, active site. I mean, I was pretty impressed with it. And a lot of children use it at ballparks and schools and things like that. And they identify, where it was found and what it was. And they've now gone back to the manufacturers or generators to see if they want to do something to change a design, for example. So pretty interesting. One school completely cut out using straws in their cafeteria because they found that all the items at like 75% of the items they picked up were straws from their cafeteria. So it's a meaningful site. I mean, I was impressed with it.
So that would conclude the open dump and litter section without any concerns in there. I think that that one's ready to go on to the full committee to see if we want to move it towards the board. The next section I wanted to look at was enforcement. Go past facility siting because nobody has seen any of that yet. I just installed that today. Okay, we've been through enforcement already and gave a description of the system. If you can kind of continue on through, I don't think that there was any concerns that was brought up, with the exception of criminal littering is enforced by peace officers. That section I'm still looking into. Brandon had brought up something that I needed to find out, and I just have not completed that. So I'm still working on that part of it. Continue on. This is all the different proceedings that we have to do, to issue a citation, the appeals process, final orders, the cases, liens, yada, yada, yada. Okay, enforcement procedure strengths. We have a very well-developed waste enforcement program that includes ordinances, clearly defined prohibited activities, enforcement processes, penalties and fees, and a code enforcement board process. Has a well-developed citizen reporting system, as we've already discussed. Has a well-developed online reporting website, as we've already discussed. And has a well-developed government provided surveillance camera system that allows officers to capture illegal dump activities within the community for enforcement action. Go down to the weaknesses. I didn't have any identified. The one thing that I'm considering there is to say that we don't have enough people out there doing enforcement for solid waste enforcement. You know, we are very limited because we've only got really 4 people countywide to do solid waste enforcement, and it's just not enough. We could do a whole lot more if we had that. So specific action right now is continue existing enforcement procedures with annual assessments to identify potential improvement. It's pretty much a status quo chapter here. So I think everybody would agree that we need additional people out there to do enforcement. We got a good program. So it's just a matter of whether or not we should put it inserted in there, because we don't have really the control over those purse strings. Any thoughts on the enforcement chapter? Sounds like we've got open dumps and litter and enforcement complete. Let's go to recycling. Pretty far up there. Yeah, I think we're in there. Okay, so this is a fairly significant chapter. We actually went through all of the questions in here fairly detailed. And we did make several edits and changes. I think unless anybody has any questions to go back into those, we can. Otherwise, I think we go into the strengths and weaknesses, or I'm not sure, can't remember if we did those. But if not, take a look at the specific actions.
I'm the right one, Pete. Is collection the same thing with recycling, or was there a separate one?
You're in the right one. Collection is separate from recycling.
Oh, gotcha.
So we did look at the strengths. Continue on, Karen. And we did look at the weaknesses. So the specific actions. Create an outreach and technical assistance program for each waste sector. That includes, that includes best practice guides or toolkits focusing on, but not limited to, reducing waste, recycling more, reducing contamination in waste streams, right-sizing services, how to conduct waste audits and capture rate studies that allow for effective waste management decision-making, how to contract solid waste services, importance of reducing and recycling, and where recycling goes once it is collected. Let's continue on. Number 2 was create a roadmap to standardizing solid waste management messaging across the solid waste management area. This would be done in partnership with collection, disposal, and material recovery facility service providers, but also in consultation with the recycling partnership and a marketing firm. Number 3, hire a consultant to assist in improving end-use opportunities for gypsum, drywall, concrete, and shingles, with the end goal of establishing better economic conditions for mixed construction and demolition waste recycling. Number 4, explore expansion of existing full-service sites to accept additional materials such as household hazardous materials, latex paint, electronics, and hard plastics. Number 5, create a marketing program to complement existing education and collection programs in the solid waste management area, but also to improve public perceptions about reducing and recycling. The marketing program should include elements of the outreach and technical assistance programs listed in action items 1 and 2. And then last, number 6, perform capture rate studies to obtain baseline metrics for measuring the impact of community of outreach campaigns and other efforts to boost recovery of materials that can be reused or recycled. Information obtained in the capture rate studies should help us chart and track patterns and identify the areas of greatest opportunity for behavior change. Any questions on the recycling specific actions?
On item 3, Pete, we basically commit to hiring a consultant to assist in improving end-use opportunities for gypsum. Do we want to tie our hands to where we're committing to the state and over the next 5 years, we're going to hire a consultant? Or do we want to explore that rather than it being such a finite word that we will hire one?
I agree. I think that maybe we can reword that to not put ourselves in a box. Karen, can we make a note there? And we'll come back and rewrite that to give us a little bit of flexibility.
Any other comments from committee members?
Okay, so we are through with dumps, enforcement, and recycling. The next one I want to go to is collection. Excuse me, let's go to disposal first. And while disposal is not done, I did want to cover a few things in there because I want to know that we're on the right track. Go first off, the numbers here are correct now. I finally got the right information from the state. So if anybody's interested in any of those numbers, have a good look. They won't be changing. Any questions on those projections? The state looks like they have us growing pretty good, so it's good. Brandon?
It is, yep. Hi. I don't understand, why is waste generation projected to double basically from 4.5 million tons to 8.6 million tons, more than double, when population is only increasing by 2%.
Let me ask that question when we meet with them, Brandon. I have that same, I don't know why they did it the way that they did. Maybe that's the form that they have sent out to everybody is still not correct. But I agree with you. It kind of doesn't make sense the way that they have it. So
I mean, I'm a layman here, but I wanted to make sure that everyone was seeing the same disparity here between the population growth and the waste generation projections that I'm seeing.
yeah, that'll be a question that I'll follow up on, Brandon.
Thanks.
Okay, we can move down, Karen. I don't want to really talk about the debris management plan right now because I know that we've got a lot going into it. So I just kind of want to wait to the last minute on that. Disposal strengths. Solid waste management area has a privately owned and operated landfill within the county. The facility has an authorized capacity that will ensure the county has disposal options for the next 10 years. The solid waste management area has several solid waste transfer stations where waste is loaded and shipped to other out-of-county or state landfills within the region. These landfills provide additional capacity assurance for waste generated in the county. Solid waste management area has a waste to energy facility, which uses waste tires, ensuring an outlet that may reduce waste tire dumps. And we have numerous drop-off sites and relatively short hauling distances for disposal. Makes it easy for people to dispose of their waste correctly. Whether or not they do or not is the next big question. And several beneficial use facilities exist that accept inert materials. Any questions on strengths? Let's go to weaknesses. Landfill bound MSW and CMD waste contains high amounts of materials that, if recovered, could be sent to existing facilities within the solid waste management area for reuse, recycling, or beneficial use. Waste composition studies conducted show that up to 60% of MSW waste sent to the disposal could be reused, recycled, or composted through curbside collection, donation, or drop-off collection programs. That's a pretty big statement, and it's pretty broad. It's saying something that is from the last study is a fact, but it really depends upon what we can do. It's not saying that we can recover all of that. It is saying that there is that's there, and if it worked perfectly, we could and had all that stuff, it would be great. We know that we can't. So the specific actions are going to be what's important. The final closure plan for Southern Materials on Bolt Avenue is nearly complete. The site has accepted C&D waste and other inert materials as beneficial use under an agreed order with the Commonwealth of Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet. The completion of this project will send much of these materials to landfill if other beneficial use is not found. And number 3 there, Metro has an official debris management plan to include contracts for national companies that can respond to remove debris and complete FEMA required monitoring of waste disposal and recovery sites, but many details need to be completed. So that's when I'm talking about the debris management plan. We have one, it's good, but there's still a lot of details that need to be worked out. And we just need to get that done. Any questions on weaknesses?
Pete, there's somewhere in the document that identified that Vote Avenue was going to be closed at the end of 2023. Did I read that right?
In this document?
Yeah, did I read that in this document?
Yeah, you probably did. I think if you go up, well, it might be in the collection section, Brian.
Okay. Well, and the reason I asked is that we've talked about this previously. We need to nail down what adjustment that means, right, to our percentages and totals so that we have that properly identified in the plan.
Yeah, and if we go to specific actions on disposal, I'm not sure. Karen, can you scroll down just a little bit? No, I don't have it there. But yeah, I do agree with that, Brian. I just haven't gotten to that part of it yet. So what would you specifically like to see in that regards?
Well, and I'm just thinking collectively as a group, where is that material coming from? And what would that mean to our totals, for example, that were identified in the, in the waste study, the 10-year study? And does that mean that those materials will be somewhere else in terms of processing or disposal?
Yeah.
A lot
When
of
you
those
say-
are out of the county, Pete.
What are you saying? You're asking, what does it mean to our diversion numbers?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
what's going to be the impact of that? I think
Yeah,
it's
and because we've got to know the right starting point, so that we know if we're meeting the goals and objectives that we've established at the end of the day for improvements. And if we have a big, somewhere I read, I think it was in this, about how many tons that was per year, that's going to drop out. So we need to reassess and reestablish a baseline, don't we? Of materials that are in that beneficial use, reprocessed category. Does that make sense to anybody else on the call, or am I thinking wrong on that?
No, I agree with you, Brian. And it will impact our diversion rate. As I recall, Pete, you said it was like 100,000 tons a year.
Yeah, something in that range, and it's flexed up and down over time.
That's a significant number in comparison to the amount of recycling we do. So it's
Huge.
gonna be a few points on our recycling rate.
It will mostly impact our overall rate. It won't impact our residential or commercial rates or curbside rate. It'll hit our top number though.
Yeah.
But I agree that it's a huge point in the fact that I think that we need to plan for where that material is going to be going, and how we can kind of keep it in the plus side, the diversion side, is something that we need to try to look for. And I think that part of that is improving the end use opportunities for gypsum, concrete, and shingles, and I think that will help some of that opportunity to sort the material to get it to where it can be used.
I got a quick comment on that. I take quite a bit of material to the Ralph Avenue disposal center, and all of the material that I am currently taking there, if it were not there, would be going to a landfill. So if that, I would think that most other people going in and out of there are going to be in the same boat. And like I said, I'm trying to recycle concrete as much stuff as possible, but I would be very prepared for a lot of that material to turn into landfill material.
Bruce Ellis Blue, 5946. You want my mail number?
Hey, Bruce, you need to mute. Karen, can you mute him? Okay, so let us finish fleshing out this part of it. I agree with you that it's kind of like a big question mark hanging over top of us until we can kind of figure out what's going to happen there. And you know, if there is anything that we can do with that material. So more to come on that one. So we still have things to do with the disposal chapter.
Hey, Pete, this is the third entry on that.
Oh, yeah.
The debris management. How will that impact us and our effects for recycling? I'm talking about Jefferson County itself.
You're
Talking about national companies, and how would that impact us?
Well, the one thing that I do know is that when there's a disaster, it's really kind of, you're trying to juggle the importance of what you have to get done with how much time that you have to do it. And obviously, FEMA's putting a pretty big emphasis on trying to recover as much debris for recycling as possible. And that's why they're wanting you to have these contracts in place, not only for the collection of it, but they put a really big emphasis on the disposal sites. And they really kind of want you to have multiple regional disposal sites that are at least 10 acres big, if not 100 acres, which we're looking for those. And there's only a few places in Jefferson County that can work at. But it would be a lot of processing that goes on those sites. And, you know, the processing to not only decrease its volume, but also to recover like the green waste, to recover the white goods, electronics. We have to deal with the household hazardous materials and hazardous materials. So how will it, I'm not sure how it will impact our diversion numbers. I think in the past, when we had the ice storm, we made a footnote in there that there was a big increase of tree debris numbers because of the windstorm. So it could be that, yes, it will impact our numbers, but when we put a footnote with it, we'll know that it's just a temporary type thing. Did that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's debris management is a monster, and you know, all of the monitoring that has to take place is huge. And when we have something such as the took place in, you know, Eastern Kentucky now, or in Western Kentucky with the tornadoes, there's so much that goes into it. Our plan will be part of this plan, or at least as far as we can have it completed in here. So everybody will be able to see it. And obviously, I think that when you have a marketing firm, there should be some kind of a component in there to tell citizens beforehand what you should do in the event of emergency, and you're going to be taking your waste someplace or setting it out at the curb, how you would want to do that. We would also have a few conflicts with ordinance in the fact that you can't collect certain items together in a truck, but in an emergency, we need to be able to possibly decide that we might need to do that. So there is, whether or not that we have emergency orders to allow us to do that, or we change ordinances that gives us flexibility to make those decisions in the event of a declared emergency, is those things that have to be worked out. Any other questions on disposal? I did have on there, and I just put this on here, negotiate a new community host agreement. It's very short, but I think it's something that we need to, and we've already formed a subcommittee to do. So it's nothing new that we're putting on the 5-year plan. Let's go up to collection, and collection would be the last major chapter. The only thing that's left after that is going to be the background section, which is mostly complete, and it's just regular questions. And then the financial section, which I don't like because I think even the state knows that it's so broad, and they've even said, you ain't got to be just ballpark stuff, is what they've told us in the past. So I'll be talking to them a little bit more about that later. Anyway, let's go through the collection system. And I know that we've talked back and forth quite a bit about the as is. Let's go to, I think, the strengths. I think that we've talked about. I think that we've talked about the weaknesses. And we started to look at the specific actions. That's where I think that we was at. We've looked at these, but we haven't really kind of talked about them very much. So the first one is hiring a consultant firm to study establishing competitively bid exclusive contracts, such as those in many home rule cities and parts or all of the subscription-based collection area where services are provided by multiple haulers in an overlapping manner. This study would not cover contracted services other than to make comparison of services across the solid waste management area. Number 2 was the collection hauler list will be updated on an annual basis through Form 6061, annual report form required by the cabinet. That's something that the state really tells us that we need to have as a specific action. So it's on there. Create outreach programs for each waste sector that include best practice guides and toolkits focusing on responsible waste management, how to obtain services, how to perform waste audits, and or potential to reduce their waste management cost, and what services must be offered by the private waste collector. Number 4, create technical assistance programs for each waste sector. We need help in setting up programs. This program will work in conjunction with the outreach program. Go down a bit more, Karen. Create a marketing program to standardize waste collection messaging across the solid waste management area and to reinforce overall messaging of putting waste in its place. That includes elements of outreach and technical assistance programs listed in items 3 and 4. Any questions where we're at on collection section?
Just a comment, Pete. I know that the Kentucky National Waste and Recycling Association is preparing some comments to deliver to the committee. So that would be forthcoming. So we should leave that item open until we receive those so we can evaluate them in the context of the information we have at hand now.
Sure. And just as a matter of process, again, this is a live document that will continue until it goes out to public comment. At the point that it gets to that public comment, 30-day public comment period, we pretty much stop any kind of changes. we let the public come in, see the plan. They can make written comment to it. And then there's a public hearing that allows anybody in the community to give, their input directly to the board. And then there's the decision after that on whether or not we need to make changes to the plan as it's been written thus far. And if there's significant changes, then we would need to ask the state again if we needed to do another 30-day public comment period. And I think that decision is up to them. And, if they do, we go back out, we do the same thing until we come up with a plan to get to where we need to be. So, the document can change from here up to the point that we put it out to the public for comment. That's when it's officially a public comment period. And that has to be advertised. So, hearing no other changes or concerns with the fact that we know additional information is coming about, I think it was number 1 of the specific actions. Is that right, Brian?
There may be some multiple comments. Pete, that document is in process. So I
Okay.
apologize. I don't know all the specifics, and there's a committee reviewing that. So
Sure.
not sure, but would be forthcoming.
Okay. Yeah, just keep us up to date on it, and obviously get it to us as soon as we can. Other than that, we are actually through, based upon what we've just went through, with everything except for facility siting and the financial chapter and the background. I think everybody's already seen the background. If you want to go down to facility siting, Karen. Nobody's had any time to look at this. This is why I hesitate to bring it up. But the one thing I will say about it, if we do want to move through it today, it is mostly already put in place procedurally by the land development code, by planning and design, and by established procedures that we're required to follow as far as local control, meaning consistency determinations with the board. So I'm not sure how much in here we can change anyway. Would y'all like to go through this? Or would you guys like to move forward with it and come back at the next meeting and say yay or nay? I have any questions with this? It's not totally complete because I have not done the strengths and weaknesses. I think it's probably better if we give people time to take a look at this. It's a long chapter about zoning. Is really what it's about. And if you just love to read, then
Sure, the committee, do we want to basically study this before we discuss any changes that we're requesting?
I think it's a good idea, Bruce, to have these documents out in advance so people can read them and hopefully study them. And this, I'm sure Pete's correct. This is a complex document. So just even having to refer to some of the codes, I think would be important so people understand it. So if we're going to approve it, they know exactly what those say. So plus we're 6 or 7 people short today. So they wouldn't have the advantage of hearing this for the first time either.
Thank you, Brian. Any other comments? Well, I would agree with Brian that I think it would be and to our benefit to actually review and read through it. There's no sense of utilizing everybody's time to read through it here on a webinar. But highlight the points that we take exception to or need more clarification on, and then bring those to the next meeting. Does anybody disagree with that? How will that work with our schedule, Pete?
I'm cautiously optimistic at this point, barring any real big surprises from our site visit. I think we're getting there. We're probably, I would say, 80% complete, and with the plan itself, the next part is putting together all of the appendices and documents that's required to be put into it. But that's staff time and going and looking for the information, which, a lot of it hasn't changed since the past 5 years plan. So that shouldn't be too awfully bad. Other than that, once we get a full complete plan, then it's taking it to the full committee and everybody, just really putting an emphasis that everybody needs to attend, and discussing it chapter by chapter. Are we comfortable with this one? We ready to move forward? Yes, no. If we're not, identifying where we need to do our work. And after that, we have another yes, no, and then it goes to the board.
Any comments from any committee members? I would agree. I think we've made progress. I don't know that we need to continue on today with any other action items, do we? Now, Pete and Karen, our next meeting was originally scheduled for the 17th, but there's a conflict with that meeting, correct?
Pete and I are attending Resource Recycling Conference in Austin, Texas, and we'll be traveling back home that evening.
So we will be canceling that meeting then. So following that, then it will be the second Tuesday of the month of September. Okay.
There's always the possibility of calling a special meeting, Bruce. And, if we need to, we
I
can
guess
do that.
our next regularly scheduled meeting to be more, have more clarification. Yeah, I'm just trying to check that date. I'm surprised Karen hasn't beat me to it.
September 13th would be the next one if we don't call a special meeting.
I almost beat you, Karen. I'm sorry. So September 13th will be our next normally scheduled meeting. And that will be from the time slot of 2 to 4, correct, Karen? Is there any other questions, comments from any committee members?
Just Karen and Pete, when you're in Austin, if you would like and had time, the Texas disposal landfill is one of the most fascinating sites in the United States. And it has, for lack of a better terminology, a goodwill facility on site where they move materials in huge amounts on a daily basis. It's just a great, great sight to see. So if you had time, we know the people that own that and could set that up for you if you like. So.
Karen, I think that was sold out. Is it not? The tours to that was sold out.
Yeah, they did offer some tours through the conference.
Did they?
But due to flights and everything, we didn't attempt to.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest facilities that I have seen in my 46 years in the United States. It's really fascinating.
Do I have any questions or comments from any other attendees on the webinar? Well, hearing none, I would like to thank you all for your time this afternoon. And I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Slade. Do I have a second?
Second, Leonard.
By Ms. Leonard. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you all very much. Please be safe.